He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
Nau mai whakarongo mai ki te aotai whenua. Welcome to Country Life. Ko Janina Schwanika, aho.
G'day, great to have your company. I'm Duncan Smith. Today, we're down at the Saleyards in Canterbury with Cosmo, counting sheep, a job for insomniacs.
Later, I introduce you to a woman that's equally passionate about sheep and the natural goodness of the woolen fibre they produce.
And later, Sally's on the road with a midwife in remote and rural northwestern Coromandel.
But first, to a wrap of what's been making headlines on the Rural News Desk this week. Sheep farmers are lamenting the end of carpet maker Bremworth's wool-only policy, with the NZX-listed company announcing return to making synthetic carpets as well. Chairperson Rob Hewitt says it was a difficult decision, but one made with the success of the company in mind.
By not having synthetics in our portfolio, we've made it a little bit harder for ourselves. The challenge we've got is when you try and spread your fixed costs across a smaller base, it gets difficult. I think I might have said at the start, we've got to grow our sales and cut our costs. This is part of the growing sales initiative and making sure that our costs are appropriate.
Rob Hewitt expects having a complete portfolio will actually help them grow wool product sales. Meanwhile, Federated Farmers Meat and Wool Chair Toby Williams says it's disappointing but understandable.
Meanwhile, researchers are trying to make sure livestock aren't getting all the blame for our emissions. NIWA greenhouse gas emissions scientist Dr. Christian Stiegler says they're looking at how much methane is emitted by wetlands to prevent emissions being wrongly attributed to livestock.
Methane produced in different settings has different fingerprints, and we study those fingerprints of methane to identify where the methane actually comes from.
The teams have been busy collecting methane samples from wetlands and farm animals in Wairarapa to analyse and compare the different molecular signatures.
The Veterinarian Association is calling for safer and better ways to manage animals during emergencies and natural disasters. Emergency lead Leanne Fieser says Cyclone Gabrielle showed gaps in responses to help isolated animals and the farmers trying to look after them.
What we'd like to see is that this is a paid, like if there's a foot and mouth outbreak in New Zealand, that's all funded by government. But at the moment, if veterinarians react through a disaster, they're not funded at all and they're expected to fit the bill. And we'd like to see that change through government, through the Emergency Management Bill.
Leanne Fieser says the bill is currently being reviewed and they want future funding for the emergency care of animals.
The National Animal Welfare Advisory Committee, or NAWAC, is seeking feedback on a revised code of welfare for sheep and beef cattle. NAWAC is an independent group which advises the government on animal welfare issues. The draft code proposes several updates to minimum standards and recommendations for best practice. It can be found on MPI's website and consultation closes on July 15th. New Zealand Food Safety is also seeking feedback on the use of a number of insecticides, herbicides and animal medications used in food farming, including common but controversial herbicide glyphosate. Consultation closed this week and submissions will be available in late June.
Federated Farmers is hoping the government will include a strategy focusing on accessible health services for rural people in the budget set to be announced next Thursday. Federated Farmers President Wayne Langford says providing mental health support and community medical professionals are on its wish list.
It's ensuring that we do have the doctors in our rural areas to provide the services that we need. That's where we're having some challenges at the moment, and it's certainly a work on for the government. I know there are shortages across the board, so when they're looking at the services in general, we need to make sure that rural is being carefully considered within that space as well.
It comes as a new report highlights the impact the Rural Support Trust is having. It showed that every dollar invested into delivering support to rural areas creates up to $5.50 in positive social impacts. It also found 94% of those who engaged with the Trust services felt less stress, and on average, a client's mental well-being improved by 5.4 points on a 10-point scale. National Chair Michelle Ruddle says the findings validate their work with rural communities and farmers.
I think that change in their wellbeing score for their self-assessment is telling, and then we know when we feel supported ourselves and in a better space, it has a ripple effect to our families, to our businesses, to our communities, and that's how we can see our rural communities thriving.
Last year, 1,500 people reached out to the Rural Support Trust, with around 51% of cases also requiring additional specialist support networks. Michelle Ruddle says it's been a tough few months for those in the rural community.
A quick update from Auckland-based Daisy Lab, who we've previously had on the show. They are now able to produce large quantities of their cowless dairy products. They use a genetically modified yeast and a process called precision fermentation to develop lactoferrin, a dairy protein commonly found in cow's milk.
And lastly, an extraordinary cow from Southland has been inducted into Cooperative Livestock Improvement Corporation's Hall of Fame. She's called April and has been recognised as one of the country's most successful cows, with more than 100 offspring and many more descendants. That's thanks to artificial insemination and embryo transfer. And that's the rural news for this week.
This is Country Life on RNZ National 101 FM.
Now we're heading to a livestock auction in Canterbury with Cosmo Kentish Barnes.
I am at the Canterbury Saleyards on a beautiful autumn morning, and in the huge sheds in front of me are lots of lambs and sheep waiting to be auctioned, so I might pop in and find out more. But first I might grab this farmer who is about to go in to find out if he is a buyer or a seller. Hi there. Can you tell me what your name is and why you're here?
So Brent McCauley, just here looking to buy some store lambs, and I just need to top up my numbers. So there's a couple of wee mobs of 50, and I think there's another one of, might be 44 or something. So need some more mouths as well, but also need, as I say, need to top up that replacement mob that we've got at home at the moment.
Yes. Do you look for a specific breed?
Yeah, sort of anything with a Romney base. Yeah, so these ones I'm looking at are a Romney Texel cross. So, yeah, prefer a Romney.
So meat and wool?
Yeah, dual purpose. I'm still conscious of the wool. Wool market's pretty flat, obviously, but there are some positive signs out there. So the positive signs for me are fantastic. So yeah, I still like to have a bit of quality in my wool.
Yes.
Yeah.
And where do you farm?
I actually manage all the livestock on a research farm, a seeds research farm out of Lincoln.
And how many stock do you run?
Anywhere, we trade a lot of lambs as well, so there could be anything between 1,000, maybe 1,200 stock units.
I am standing in front of dozens and dozens of sheep pens full of lambs, and I am with Grant Nordstrom, who is the Regional Livestock Manager for PGG Wrightson. Grant, there are a lot of lambs up for sale today.
There is. This is our biggest yarding we've had for a couple of months, really, but as we're getting through into the autumn months now, people are starting to offload. A bit of rough weather lately, and as you can see, a lot of the lambs that are here are quite forward, and that's as a result of the high prices we're getting for store lambs. And in the Canterbury region itself, they're pretty in short supply.
Yes, and for our listeners who aren't familiar with the term forward, what does that mean?
That means that they're short-term lambs, they're not far away from processing.
What sort of weight would these lambs be?
A lot of the lambs you can see in front of you here are probably from 32 to 38 kilos.
And they're looking really good, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, yep.
Looking really healthy and meaty.
You can see the season we've had in Canterbury compared to this time last year, we're in a drought. And it's unbelievable this year, the turnaround.
Lots of grass around.
Yep, a lot of grass around, and a lot of people in Canterbury now have gone away from the traditional farming of running ewes and finishing their own lambs. They're all in the market now to buy in and finish other people's lambs.
In the pen in front of us, the lambs still have their fleece, but in the other pen, they've been shorn.
Yep, and as you can see, there's still a lot of farmers that aren't shearing their lambs because, there's just no money in the wool. So they're crutching them up nicely and presenting them well. There is a premium being paid for shorn lambs though, not only through here, through the works, there's always a shorn premium.
Why is that?
Easier for them to process. But lambs do a lot better with the wool off, especially in a year like this.
And how are prices faring?
Prices are good. The schedule prices are high. You're in the mid-8s for lamb, meaning that the store lamb prices per kilo are somewhere between $4 and $4.50 per kilo.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
Good,
Is that up on last year?
It's up. It's probably $1 a kilo up on last year. Yes.
There's quite a few cattle up for sale today as well.
Yeah, there's probably a yarding of close to 800 cattle out there today. A lot of store cattle today, a lot of rising 2-year-old cattle that just need finishing off. quite a few dairy cross stock.
So people who buy those cattle will be fattening them up over winter and then selling them, later on this year?
Yeah, well, a lot of people also, they'll put in crop for dairy grazers and haven't been able to get the numbers that they required. So they're topping up with their own stock to finish cleaning their crops up.
How good is it for you to see such a good showing today?
Oh, it's great. The competition's been strong right through. For even on a day we have a short yarding, we still get a good lineup of buyers looking to compete for what we've got on offer.
Do you know most of the people here?
Know them all.
My name's Tim Kyle. I've lived locally in Canterbury for 30 or 40 years, and I'm the buyer for Woolworths supermarket in the South Island.
What are you looking for here today, Tim?
Today I've got clients that fatten ewe and wether lambs for our company. And there's a couple of top pens of Rishon Partnership ewe lambs in today, nice and shorn forward store lambs that we're looking to buy and fatten on to kill local trade in a couple of 3 months, yeah.
How can you tell what a good lamb is?
Well, for me, there's a number of things. When I walk up to a pen there, I'm looking at the condition of the lamb, the colour of the lamb, the eyes on the lamb. You can see these lambs here are quite bright and conditioned. They've got their heads up. They've got a bit of condition over their shoulders, through their loins.
Yeah, they're quite perky, aren't they?
They are perky, bright lambs, I'd call them. So that's the type of lamb I'm looking for. Lamb that's got its head up and just looking nice and healthy and presentable, yeah.
So you'll buy them and send them to a farm that fattens them for you?
Yes, I've got a couple of local clients here that turn over a large number of lambs. They're primarily cropping clients, so it works in with their grass seed and cropping rotation. But they fatten ewe and wether lambs for our company only. We don't kill ram lambs, so primarily looking for those ewe and wether lambs, yeah.
And how many lambs would you buy in a season?
Oh, it would vary quite a lot, anywhere from 5 to 10,000 lambs maybe. More so probably on the lower side this year. It's all different year to year with markets and the weather and what falls out of the sky. You know, everything makes an impact on purchasing decisions, yeah.
Yes, and do you look at where the lambs come from?
Yeah, very much so. We know what lambs would shift from different areas, etc. I mean, these are out of Lees Valley, predominantly quite a harder type country through there, so we put them on this nice sweet country on some good feed down here, lower country. They should bolt. I know that they've got a good drench program and a vaccination program in there, and you know that they're probably also being at a Rishon, they could be cull ewe lambs, so you know they're a good line of ewe lambs.
Do all the lambs you purchase go into the supermarket chain?
They do for me, yes. Yeah, that's my primary job, and that's what I'm buying for, yes.
And does the meat go all over the country?
It goes throughout all the supermarkets throughout the South Island.
What do you love about your work, Tim?
Well, I was primarily a stock agent for 30 years prior to coming into this buying position, but just dealing with the cockies, being outside all day, every day. I'm not the kind of guy that likes to put a suit and tie on and go into an office. You've got to be a people person and love the livestock. So I was off a farm, born and bred off a farm, and you know, you go to where you find that your happy place is, and you know, they reckon if you're happy in your work, you'll never work a day in your life. So that's basically it.
Righto, we start with pen 351. Quality line up here, regular vendor, the Rishon Partnership, from out of the Lees Valley. They would have been farmed out on the Oxford Plains there for some time off the back of weaning. The Coromandel ewe lambs they are. That's a cracking line up. Okay, there's 60 in the top cut there, plenty of weight, short term finish on them. Right over there, they are quality ewe lambs. We've got 160 of these. 160 and go. Got to be 60. I've got 50 then, 51. 51 got to be 1, 51 2, over 52 3, hit 4 5, hit 6 7, 57 here, hit 157 there, here we go, 1 8 9 60, 160, yours Tim, at $160, what do we do? $160 bid now, here we go, 160, we let him go for 160. Tim, 160, thank you Tim.
Cosmo was chatting with Tim Kyle, Grant Nordstrom and Brent McCauley at the Canterbury Agricultural Park Saleyards earlier this week.
Taranaki is better known for its many dairy cows, but the region's fertile soils also contribute to the production of some beautiful wool. I meet an Eltham woman hoping to strengthen the region's wool industry, one thread at a time.
Hello. How are you?
Hi, good.
Inside the cosy space of Eltham's main street, Alison Ross is busy at work, weaving together another blanket on an old loom. It's part of a project she's started, developing a Taranaki blanket. before she can tell us more about that, we have to first untangle the microphones.
It's all right. No, we just had a big twist. They were around each other 3 times. That's a weaver. I'm always untangling threads.
Growing up in Taranaki, Alison always knew it as a dairy region before she married a shepherd and learned more about wool inside the region's various wool sheds.
I was surrounded by dairy farmers' kids from around the mountain. Never really was aware of East Taranaki, but I married into sheep farming. So I was fairly quickly introduced to Tahora and Tarata and Ararata and saw all these wonderful old communities and started to learn some farm skills. And it was a great life. We managed for a Māori trust for a while, and each farm had its own unique things. He was a good teacher and I learnt a lot. I worked in the wool sheds with the various gangs, the nearby gangs.
As a rousey? Or?
As a rousey, yeah. So I figured out how all that works. And then every year at hogget shearing, I'd go down to the shed and pick myself out a nice fleece for hand spinning. That kind of grew from there.
She's learned plenty more about wool and weaving since then, especially while travelling abroad, before returning to Taranaki about a year ago.
In the last 10, 12 years, I've done lots of travelling in the UK. I'd end up leaning over a fence yakking to farmers about their sheep breeds and everything, and learning more and more about the local breeds. And some of them, to look at for me, who'd been a bit spoilt, brought up on lovely Romney fleeces, would look at them and think, golly, this is a breed that the whole history of this area right back to medieval times is built on. And I look at it and I go, really? But actually I've had to pull back my ideas and realise that some breeds just need a lot more prep before you can do anything with them, but what you get out at the end can be absolutely gorgeous. As I travelled around the UK, I saw lots of different breeds and also heard the stories that I hear from farmers here about how they're getting next to nothing for it now. When I got back here about a year ago, I don't know, I just had this idea. And I'd done some weaving. My first weaving was over in the Outer Hebrides on a Hattersley machine loom, which is foot powered, but it's a mechanical beast. It's like a power loom, but it's foot powered. And then I was mostly on wooden looms. Had another go on a Hattersley down in Oamaru. Would settle for a while, buy a loom, do some weaving, then think, oh, it's time to go and sell the loom. So I've ended up putting up lots of old looms too and figuring them out because they've all got their own idiosyncrasies.
This beautiful blanket you're holding here, this is something that you have effectively made start to finish. I mean, you didn't produce the wool, the sheep did that. But you have put this together using one of your looms?
This one, yeah.
How long did it take you to make this prototype?
Oh, well, it depends how long I go and sit there and how often. So how long is a piece of string? If I set to it now, I would do that in a day or two. But obviously a mechanical loom is going to be a lot faster. So it's going to make me metres and metres and metres a day.
What kind of loom are we looking at here?
Well, I've got 4 shafts on it. It's a wooden floor loom. It's countermarch. So that means it's lifting and lowering at the same time, so you get a nice big opening called a shed for the shuttle to fly through.
Would you be able to give me a little demonstration?
We can do that. It's very slow at the moment, but a rug, a sleigh shuttle, a ski shuttle I think they're called. And I've got a 2
Alison uses the loom to interlace 2 sets of threads. Warp threads running lengthwise and weft threads running horizontally. She presses down on the treadles to raise and lower the shafts, passing the shuttle through the gap between and passing the weft threads through.
So it comes out to about here. And then I'd like to put a box there and a box there and have a string here and throwing. It's called a flying shuttle. So that was quite a key invention in the history of weaving. And as the cottage industry became an industry, that was one of the things that got them faster. And of course then it all gave way to the mills and the bigger machines and things. So there's lots of old folk songs about that. The broke weavers with no shoes on, etc. It's not a noisy loom at all, you know. And also I'm only beating quite softly because it's a blanket. Trying to make a bit of noise. But this, as I say, is just a sample. But I've now got 3 metres woven on here, so I'll cut it up, and I'm nearly at the end. So,
how long does it take you to do those 3 metres?
I suppose if I did a metre in a day, that's a pretty good day on this with a shuttle. But
I can see why this one's called, you said, a ski shuttle. It does look like a ski for someone going down a mountain.
Rugs. So So the other sort is this. So that's a Swedish shuttle because I love the curves on it, the way it sort of goes in and comes out. But it has a bobbin in the middle on a pin, and the wool comes out here. So you've just it's much more like this speed, and you just have to stop to change the shuttle every now and then. And that's what the mechanical looms have in them as a shuttle. Well, at least I've bought one that's got a shuttle. Nowadays they don't. Nowadays they've got other ways of getting the wool across that are much, much faster. But a shuttle, you have to go back to a shuttle loom to get this. And this is turning out to be quite a retro sort of recipe. So plus it means I only have to sew the ends. I don't have to sew the sides.
The blankets will be made from wool sourced from surrounding Taranaki farms, though admittedly the prototype blanket has been made from wool from the Hawke's Bay. You have a lovely prototype blanket here.
Yes.
Can you talk me through it? What type of wool is it and where did you source it from?
Okay, well this is Hawke's Bay Perindale, and it's been spun by Design Spun in Napier, and that's what's still on here in terms of warps, although I'm now weaving with Taranaki wool. Yeah, I'm really pleased with it. It's washed up beautifully soft, and I possibly warped it up a little bit densely, so it's quite full, and it's only had 2 washes, so normally you would weave it a little bit sparser and thicken it up with the washing at the end, but everyone loves it, so I'm quite happy with this really full recipe, and or recipe, and if you want to use that word. I went into the wool shed at shearing of hoggets, which is young first adult fleece really, and that's what I was aiming for, and farmers figured out different ways to make it work for me, so we tried a couple of things. In one place I went and marked all the sheep the day before, and we put them all through the same shearer, and I rousied for that shearer plus. But it was very important to me to throw the fleeces and skirt them really hard and get just the nicest wool, because I wanted to pay a really good price, because I felt that was important. It is important. So
I suppose that's the aim of the project, isn't it? Is to find a new way and to help revitalise the wool industry.
It's only a very small thing I'm doing, but it was really about celebrating strong wool, because the whole thing about it being scratchy, well, this isn't. It's really about how many short ends there are, how many ends there are in there that makes it scratchy. And so if I'm skirting all the really short, even possibly hairy bits out, then I've got the longest, best, nicest, softest in my blankets. And also, I don't have to deal with any dirty stuff back here. So my bales that I've sent over to the scour, and I've since had one spun, another one's being spun this week, 2 bales this year, so that I know there's no rubbish in them, and the yarn that comes out is good. Here's a cone of the Taranaki wool. It's obviously strong wool, but it's not carpet wool.
Again, it's got that, and it's a beautiful colour as well. It comes up
it's just
really
a natural colour. Yes. Well, it wasn't the driest year that last year, so it's come up nicer colour than possibly we were expecting.
I mean, it's a beautiful colour. It's a lovely soft cream. But
Well,
this is the natural colour of wool when it's clean. And
we might put some coloured stripes in later years. In fact, might do a slightly different design each year. But first year, it's just going to be plain white to keep things simple.
And as you mentioned, at the end, you've stitched in black and a kind of mustardy yellow. Those are the colours of the
Taranaki balls. Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm not really a rugby follower, I'm afraid. But Taranaki is a wonderful place with a strong identity, and I just thought it would be good to put out something like this. Yeah.
No, it's lovely. And I just love this darling logo that you've created with the maunga in the background, and then I presume the highway lines in yellow.
Well, that's Highway 3 and that's Highway 43.
And
that's
the little
where the sheep are.
Yeah. It's gorgeous. And I think, so cool to be showcasing that the region has so much to offer. I think a lot of people associate Taranaki as primarily a dairy region.
Yeah.
Has there been surprise about wanting to do something for wool?
Yeah, somebody said to me, "Oh, you're really going to have a woolen mill in the middle of all those dairy farms?" And I thought, yes, well, that's the beauty of it, really. I just enjoyed discovering that eastern Taranaki as well. It's a special place. You go out into these valleys out there, and they're steep, and there's usually a beautiful river. I mean, the last farm I went to, I had a swim in the Waitara River afterwards, and just the enthusiasm and support of the farmers and the hospitality. I just have a wonderful time when I go out there, and then the handling of the wool, and you can't help but feel joyful handling beautiful raw fleece wool.
Alison's on the hunt for a new loom to help take her project to the next level.
So one of the things that I'm looking for is an old 19th century tappet loom that's wide enough to do blankets, probably 72-inch wide reed. That I don't even know if that still exists.
hope it does.
So the loom I learnt on was a Hattersley domestic, so not wide and not electric, not powered by feet. And it had a bigger brother. It had the company that made it made a whole range of all sorts of things and lots of kinds of looms. But once something's in the industry, it tends to get replaced by later models and later inventions. So I don't know if these really old ones still exist. I saw one swinging through the air on a video the other day going into a museum in Bradford in Yorkshire, and I thought, oh, well, I've missed that one. But so a tappet loom isn't very clever, but then I'm only doing tutu blankets. I twill blankets. I don't need a dobby or a jacquard loom, really. But on the whole, as long as it's used as shuttles, I'll be happy. But it's just the more things on it, the bigger and heavier and more complicated they get. So if I could find an old 19th century tappet loom, I'd be pretty happy girl.
A woman of many talents, she also shares with us a song she learned from the days when the Industrial Revolution saw great upheaval in the original loom factories.
I have this old song that I learnt in West Yorkshire, and I'm really hoping not to relive it. I'm a four-loom weaver, as many a one knows. I've now date and I've wore out me clothes. Me clogs are all broken and stockings I've none. They'd scarce give me tuppence for all I've got on.
That was Alison Ross singing an old weaver song from her Eltham shopfront in Taranaki. She's now moved to a home studio in East Taranaki, nearer to where she gets her wool. Pre-orders are available while Alison is still busy weaving together new Taranaki blankets and gathering more wool from local farmers. You can find photos of her at her loom and find more details on our webpage, rnz.co.nz/countrylife, or check the show notes.
Hi, my name is Des. I live beside the Uara River, and you're listening to Country Life on RNZ National.
Let's head to the Coromandel Peninsula now with producer Sally Round to find out about a day in the life of a rural midwife.
The road from here to Port Jackson is in the list of the world's 100 most dangerous roads.
And that's the road that you travel?
That's the road that I travel quite frequently.
What's it like?
Yeah. Oh, it's windy, it's one way, it's got big drops off one side. In the summer it's challenging, in the winter it can be a bit scary really. You get used to it because it's the sort of roads that I travel all the time, but certainly often see tourists on Facebook asking, is it safe to go there?
You've got a special siren that you put on your car, don't you?
Yeah, it's a pretty unknown fact actually that a green light on the roof means a midwife or another health professional responding to an emergency. And I didn't use it much when I was urban because you can usually get places pretty quickly, but sometimes I'll use it here just to let people know that I do need to get past, because obviously on not so great roads people are often taking their time and being careful with their driving, but because I know the road a bit better I can often go a bit faster, but it's actually just getting past them can be the challenge. But I've often met a lot of people who say, oh, I didn't know about the green light.
If Sheryl Wright hasn't got the green light on, you'll spot her by her special licence plate, a little frill on a tough but rewarding job. Has anyone given birth in the car?
No, I've managed to avoid anyone having a baby in my car. I've delivered a few babies in a car in my career, but luckily in their car, not mine. I carry everything in my car that you would ever need to have a baby. So I've got a lovely big picnic rug which has had a few babies born on it. I have a full oxygen resuscitation kit and all the other drugs that you carry as a midwife for people who have problems with bleeding or anything. I have quite a big supply of medicines, everything from antibiotics to paracetamol to an asthma inhaler, simply because after hours everything's shut. So if someone develops a urinary tract infection on a Friday night, they either have to drive a long way to the nearest pharmacy or I can give them something to keep them going for the weekend until they can get in and pick up a prescription.
Sheryl is on call 24/7 apart from 10 days a year. And because she's on her own here, she gets an additional 4 days off a month with a locum standing in. She does ante and postnatal visits and births, including those at home.
One thing I found with remote women is they're really appreciative. You know, they are used to the challenges and not always having such easy access to services, so that they are much more appreciative of the fact that they have the ability to have a local midwife. Very resilient, the women of the Coromandel. They're really amazing.
Today, Cheryl's first stop is a clinic in Coromandel Town, where clients can find her once a week.
This is the local support services building in Coromandel Town. Cool, take
And
a
it's
seat.
all set up for one of your clients to come in.
Yes, I'm expecting a client in a few minutes. She's just popping in for just a check-up on her baby. She was feeling unwell last week and just wants a reassurance visit that everything's okay.
Where do you live, Sheryl?
So I'm really fortunate. I live at beautiful Amodio Bay. That's about 20 minutes north of Coromandel Town. So this is the northwestern Coromandel Peninsula. It's the side of the Coromandel that faces towards Auckland, the side that often gets forgotten about. Everyone, when they think of Coromandel, thinks of Pawanui and Whitianga, but we've got quite a population on this side of the peninsula as well.
Yeah, so how many are you covering and how many births would you see a year?
Well, it's always very up and down, really. The area I cover has a pretty good population, but obviously not all of those women will be of childbearing age. But I cover a really large area. I cover from the little village of Manaia, which is about 40 minutes north of Thames, and I go all the way up to Port Jackson, which is an hour and a half north of Coromandel Township. So population-wise, not particularly big, but it is the largest very remote rural area in New Zealand, quite significantly. And areas are graded by how far they are from the nearest big hospital. So we're 3 hours from Waikato Hospital here.
Are you the only midwife covering this area?
I am the only midwife at the moment covering this area, yes. When I moved here 6 years ago, the Coromandel as a whole had a crisis of only 11 midwives, and post-COVID we went down to 3. I have been working on my own for 6 years now, covering this area. It's an area larger than all of Auckland City, geographically, so the clients are quite spread out. And the caseload, I usually look after between 30 or 40 women a year, which is a typical caseload for a midwife, but typical for an urban midwife maybe. In a rural area, that's a lot of women to look after because it's such a long distance to see everybody, big travelling distances.
Tell me about the economics of working as a midwife here. I mean, why can't they have more midwives?
Well, it's a really nice place to live, so you'd think midwives would want to come here. The challenge is that we have a good population and we have a full caseload of women for me to look after. But the income that comes with that, if that was split between 2 midwives, that wouldn't be economic. It's barely economic for me as one midwife. So we really would need either the pay to reflect the work we do and to achieve pay equity, which we've been waiting for a long time, or we need a second midwife. If there was more women, there'd be enough work for 2 midwives, but that's unlikely to happen. There's still enough work for one midwife, but one midwife on her own is very hard to get time off.
Sheryl also attends births at the Thames birthing unit, 1.5 hours from her home. And if there are complications, the mums may need transferring to Waikato Hospital, another 1.5 hours away. And that's where Cheryl's first client of the day is planning to have her second baby.
Oh, hello, here she is. Hi, Nicole, come on in. Welcome.
Hi Nicole, I'm Sally.
Hello, Sally.
I'm from RNZ Country Life.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Hope you don't mind, I've got my microphones on.
That's okay. Yep.
How are you today, Nicole?
Good, thank you. How are you?
You're looking way better than when I saw you last week.
Thank you. I feel better.
You feel better?
Yeah.
So all your symptoms and your cold have disappeared?
Yes.
And you're back at work now?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Good to hear.
Nicole works in healthcare too, and her husband helps keep power flowing to the Coromandel. They're providing essential services to the area, as well as living here for the space and nature.
So baby's been nice and active and moving plenty?
Yep.
Yes, excellent. Do you notice anything in particular, certain time of the day or any particular area where baby's moving lots?
I thought it was, like, normally I get more needs. There's actually a lot higher intake of young families moving to a rural setting like Coromandel, Matarangi and Whitianga, purely because of the lifestyle. So we're getting more hapu mama in at the moment, but only one midwife. So, you work out the math there.
Baby's in a really good position. Got its head down. See if we can find this little heartbeat. There it is. Sounds good.
Yeah. Good, right.
Always nice to hear that, isn't it? What with the heartbeat and all the nice constant movements, it's always really reassuring, isn't it?
Yes, very.
Sheryl says not all pregnant mums are getting antenatal care in the region.
If the barriers are too large, they often just don't have care and they will just present in labour in the hospital. And that's a really big risk for the mum and the baby, and much harder for the staff to provide the care too, because they've got no scans, no blood tests, no knowledge of the woman. And sometimes we have unfortunate outcomes when that happens, and that's really sad. But if you've got a woman with, a limited income, no ability to travel, sometimes, she'll have to make hard decisions about where their money goes.
And so you're mostly doing home visits, are you? Or how often are you coming to a clinic like this?
Yes, I do. I offer all women home visits because we don't have any public transport on the Coromandel. So if women don't have access to transport or they have children, it can be quite difficult for them to come into a clinic.
And a home visit is where Sheryl's off to now.
This is my bag, goes everywhere with me. There's a bit of everything, stethoscope, listening to baby equipment, baby weighing equipment, blood pressure kit, and all the things you need to check that mum and baby are well. Handouts, prescription forms, tissues. And in my car I also have a full home birth kit at all times, so I carry all the emergency equipment and everything you need to do a birth, really. So let's hop in the car and we'll go for a drive and meet another one of my lovely clients, Regan, who's had 2 home births with me.
See you later. Take you later, guys. Have a nice afternoon.
This car is well travelled.
It is.
I can see. You must know the roads like the back of your hand.
You do get to know, and you get to go to all sorts of interesting places and down little bits of roads where you wonder where you're going to. Very handy to have a GPS to find places, but there's a lot of my clients who live off-grid. They don't actually have an address, so sometimes you have to follow quite specific instructions to find them. Cross this forward, turn left at this tree.
Do you get many clients who are here for a short time, and that also is a challenge?
Over the summer there's often a lot more phone calls from women who are just in the area on holiday, who have a concern. And to be honest, the paperwork to do the claiming for those, what they call single services, is greater than the actual work. So you often just do that work for love.
It's hard for you to say no, I imagine.
You do. When you get someone ringing you that is upset and concerned and really wants some reassurance, and you have the ability to provide that reassurance, you do feel an obligation to do so, really. I've heard my job described by some people as a non-financial hobby.
So here we are. We've arrived at your next client.
Let's go and see Regan. I'm losing my normal pattern as well. Hi. How are you? Oh, here he is.
Sorry, I'm still in my...
It's okay.
We're just chilling.
It's radio. We don't have to worry about how you look.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
This is Sally.
Come on in.
This is Regan and Tangaroa.
Hello. Aren't you beautiful?
Oh, there's smiles.
Oh.
Hello, gorgeous. There you go. He looks so much like he's grown to look like his sister. Oh, yeah. He's
My name is Regan Kirison. My baby's name is Tiaki Kirison Mariroa.
Tiaki was born at home, like his older sister who came too quickly for the planned trip to the Thames birthing unit.
We made a decision to have Tiaki at home, and that was the plan all along. But of course he came before Sheryl could make it. And I had him in the same spot on the floor in the lounge at home with my mum, Tiaki's dad, and his auntie. and my mum caught Tiaki. And then about 20 minutes later, Sheryl turned up.
I think I got about halfway to your house when I got the text saying baby is here. But the road between my house and Regan's house is not one you can go particularly fast on. It's a curvy, windy road. So I was going as fast as I could. But,
yeah, and the service is quite shoddy as well. So you're in and out of service between there and here. My mum was trying to call Sheryl, but it kept cutting out. And by then, Tiaki's head was out, and next thing he was screaming. So it was all just happened really fast. So I was grateful that Sheryl made it in the end, and I was grateful that my mum was there. But yeah, it is very nerve-wracking and very scary, and just knowing that there's actually nothing around here. The closest thing is Thames, and that's like an hour away.
Regan ended up needing some stitches, which is something we can easily do at home, but is a little bit more challenging when you haven't got quite the same setup you might have as in a birth centre. Regan's mum was wonderfully helpful and held the light from my cell phone. And it was a big hot summer's day, and I remember her mum wiped my brow with a tissue and said, "Oh, I've always wanted to do that."
She'd seen it in the movies?
She'd seen it in the movies, yeah.
So you just have to make do with what's around and what you've got.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. Being adaptable and resilient are definitely qualities you need as a rural midwife. Being able to think on your feet, being able to adapt and, cope with a variety of situations and locations, different people. We have a really unique population up here of, all sorts of different people from all different walks of life. I learn so much from lots of my clients and get exposed to many things that I had never come across before when I lived more urbanly.
Of course, there are some people telling me, "Oh, shouldn't you go to Thames a week before your due date, or shouldn't you go to Hamilton?" But I'm not comfortable in those places, so I'm not going to go to those places. I was comfortable enough to stay home. You stay there and you trust in your body, you trust in the people around you, and you'll be okay. But it is helpful to have things closer.
And what about the aftercare? How important is it to have a midwife close by?
Very important, especially when you're a first-time mum and you don't really know much, and if you don't have a lot of family, which thankfully I have a lot, so I do have a lot of support. But as a first-time mum, you have little random questions, and I'm just very grateful that Sheryl is able to text me or call me back whenever I needed her. She was able to stop in and visit whenever I needed her to as well.
You must know quite a few people in this area. Are some going without midwife care, do you know?
Yes, I do know of some that are going without midwife care. I think simply because they're too shy, or they don't know to get a midwife, or they don't know that they need scans.
And where are they living?
Some people actually live in tents around here. Some people live in cabins. Yeah, it's hard, and I'm actually quite fortunate. I'm one of the fortunate ones. Some people are living in houses, 2-bedroom houses, and there's like 10 of them. And that people just make do with what they can get.
Yeah. Here's Mama.
You're hungry.
Do you see a lot more home births working remotely?
Yeah, you do. Well, I've always been supportive of home births, but where we live, it often becomes, for some women it's a choice because that's what they prefer, but often it just becomes the practical decision because of the distances involved, particularly for women who've had a couple of babies. They do tend to get quicker each time. The last thing you want to do when you have a really quick 1 or 2 hour labour is to spend most of that in the car frantically trying to get to the nearest birth centre. That's stressful for everybody involved.
And you make some quick decisions, don't you, Sheryl, around that?
Yeah, you have to think on your feet sometimes. Sometimes you think you're doing one thing and then your day turns upside down and you're doing something completely different.
What are some of the stranger places where you have had to quickly nip in and help?
I once had a mum who had a history of fast births, but also had some complications in the past, so was not comfortable with a home birth. So we had a plan that immediately that she knew she was in labour, she would leave immediately for the birth centre. She got most of the way before we realised that there was no way this baby was going to hold on till we got to the birth centre, and we were able to pull aside. It was a busy summer's day, lots of people around, and for some privacy we dashed into the changing room on one of the beach facilities, and that's where baby was born. Well improved now.
Time to hop in the car again to the next appointment.
This is my little seat to sit on because my GP reckoned I had really lots of back problems and sciatica pain, and she just said it was all the driving, just sitting for so long and on the bumpy, crazy roads. So I've learnt that having a nice orthopaedic shaped cushion to sit on makes a difference.
How many hours do you think you spent in the car, Sheryl?
Oh, I would hate to guess. It really changes week by week, but my car really is my office on wheels.
In an emergency, there's always the helicopter, but they can only fly in good weather. After recent storms and cyclones, Sheryl has backup plans and special comms equipment in case power goes down.
I mean, you could leave in the morning to go to a clinic just to see routine antenatal and postnatal visits, but maybe in the middle of the day someone calls in labour. So instead of backtracking to home, you might carry on to the birth centre, and you might be there all night. So you have to think about having some food, some snacks in the car, a change of clothes, and then even thinking about coming home. Sometimes you have to make the decision to stay and sleep before you drive just because you've been awake too many hours, and the Thames Coast Road is not the sort of road you want to drive half asleep.
So do you sleep in the car? What do you do?
We'll sometimes sleep at the birth centre if they've got a spare bed, but there have been times I've slept in my car. I've got a little blow-up mattress that goes in the back seat. I had a client once see me asleep outside Waikato Hospital in the back of my car, and she thought it was quite funny seeing, she said, "Oh, there's a homeless midwife in her car," knocked on my window. But it's just having those options, really. Like I said, change of clothes, just being prepared at all times, always thinking what might happen in your day.
Where are we heading to now?
So we're going to go and visit Caitlin now. Caitlin's got a brand new baby, her first baby. He's a week and a half old, so we're going to go and check on how things have been for her the last couple of days.
The couple are relatively new to the area, away from family, and here for Jack's career opportunities.
This is Sally. Hi, Sally from around here in New Zealand. This is Caitlin and Jack.
Hi. How are you, Sally? Nice to meet you.
I spotted Jack last night when I was coming home from work, walking the baby with the pram, and I was like, is it exercise or is the baby unsettled? Not stop.
Sheryl says some question why pregnant and new mums choose to be in a remote area with scant provision for care.
I hear that comment quite often. Most people know the Coromandel is a holiday destination, so we need people to live here to run motels, to work in the restaurants, to provide all the services that tourists need. But there's a really strong agriculture and aquaculture. Here we have a lot of families that are employed on the mussel barges, in fishing, farming, and they all provide services to the city. You can't manage without those services up here. They top up what urban people need. And for a lot of people, this is home. It's not just living here for the lifestyle. This is where their whānau have been for many years. It provides them the lifestyle and the living that they need. Babies do often have a bit of a windy spell, 2 weeks to 5 weeks.
Yeah, we do. I think he gets a sore tummy. He makes we can tell when we put him down in the bassinet.
Sheryl listens and reassures, and then reaches into her bag for her mobile weighing kit to see how well baby Louie's growing.
Pop that down. There you go. Little mate. Hey, little man.
How much was this?
It was $4.59. We'll take off the
$4.59.
Yeah, less the wrap. So he feels heavy. He feels really heavy. It was awesome.
What's the best thing about your job?
Oh, the community, and working with mums. You meet so many amazing people. I love the education side of it, like the chance to impart lots of knowledge to women and see them grow with that knowledge, sort of become empowered and own their journey, and then seeing that lovely transition to being a mum and supporting them through the challenges and the joy of that, really. It's lovely.
He loves being bounced like that.
He's very alert though, right? You can just see, it's like his brain's just whirring.
Since day one.
Sheryl Wright, a rural midwife on the northwestern Coromandel Peninsula. That piece produced by Sally Round. And do check out the story and photos on rnz.co.nz/countrylife.
And that's this week's Country Life. Thanks for joining us. You can also find photos and more information about the stories in this episode in our show notes. We love getting your feedback and ideas for future stories. You can reach us, country@rnz.co.nz.
We'd hate for you to miss an episode of Country Life. To get every episode free to your phone, click follow on your app now. And if you enjoyed our show, give us a shout on social media or tell a friend by clicking the share button in this app.
Out in the field today were myself, Cosmo Kentish-Barnes and Sally Round.
The show was produced and engineered by David Knowles and William Saunders. Ka kite.
Catch you next time.